Yeah, that works.
All right. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Cool. Thanks. I guess I'll share my screen. Oops, wrong screen. Hi, so we're Team Mamel. Basically, we made a Pomodoro application with a test logging to do interface. Basically, it's combining both a Pomodoro timer with a to-do list that you could check off as you go along doing tasks during the productivity session. So we have 4 team members.
Would you, sorry to stop, but would you mind just making it full screen?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry about that.
Cool. No worries. Thank you.
Cool. So we have 4 teammates. Max Prehoda was primarily responsible for the entirety of the front end, plus some of the backend logic. Asa led the initiative in terms of creating the API and doing some research into Postgres railways, which we intended to implement in a later version, but we weren't able to finish it before the deadline. I also worked on the backend primarily with the session logic, and Mika also worked somewhat with the session logic as well as with the Postgres database. Oops, sorry. So the technologies we use Electron as our wrapper for our application to run it as a desktop application, React for the front end, along with Tailwind CSS for the front end UI, Netlify for the API, and Postgres for our database. Fortunately, we weren't able to implement Netlify and Postgres properly, but we tend to do that in a future goal. Same thing with Railway. And we primarily use TypeScript for the language of this entire application. Oops. So our goals were initially, as the minimum viable product, is to create a desktop Pomodoro. The user will be able to start and stop the timer for the Pomodoro, as well as create and delete to-do lists. While they run the application, they're able to delete objects or press on objects to complete them, sort of like checking off your list while you you're doing your work during the Pomodoro. The second version would have been to display the session summaries of the tasks, so what tasks got completed and what tasks are still left to do. And the third version would be to show a web interface of the user-based stats of anybody that's using the Pomodoro, so that people could view it from the web. As you can see here, front end is in React. We created the entirety of our session logic and interfacing between the different components in TypeScript, wrapping this entirely in Electron, and writing this to the user's local storage, so that they have this session data after their tasks are done or the session is done. Then concurrently, this was in our stretch features. It would be to interface with this Netlify API, then write the session data to Postgres, as well as have the API output the web interface for the user stats. So learning curves. For the majority of our group, this is the first time we've used React and Electron concurrently, as well as using TypeScript. For the Netlify app API, I work locally, but however, we weren't able to get it to run on the production server, and we'll try to figure out that later on. A huge part of our challenge was with the Electron implementation of the local storage, read and write. So while running the applications, oftentimes the app would have overwritten our previous storage. So we had to figure out and mitigate the issues with the local storage manipulation. So lessons learned. This hackathon, instead of having different branches for like different features or modules, we decided to all just use one Git branch or like commit to masters, but instead commit in continuous increment additions, just so that we make sure that there's no merge conflicts, as well as making sure that the small features that we add worked and didn't break the code. This was immensely helpful for making sure that everybody was on board with this exact same branch without having a conflicting code, as well as ensuring that we stay in constant communication with each other about the features that we're working on and whenever we make a change. Same thing with specifying our goals for the MVP version 2.0 and version 3.0. This helped us to organize our tasks and features under different versions, or rather like figure out how we would, which tasks are essential and which tasks are part of the stretch feature. And then getting familiar with the tools that we're using, such as learning TypeScript for the first time. Now for future improvements, we want to continue to work on the API so we can actually get the read-write functionality from our desktop to the Postgres database. Continue to work on the web interface so that it'll be able to display this data, then implement also a break cycle in between each productivity cycle, since that's a key feature of a Pomodoro cycle, to have small incremental breaks between each productivity session. So going out to demo, I'll hand this off to my teammate, Max.
Everybody,
Sorry.
can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. I'm gonna share my screen.
I guess I'll stop this screen share for now. Thanks.
Can everybody see the app?
Yes.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So hello, everybody. I worked with Larry and the rest of the team on Pomo Hub. Here's a little live demo of the app we built. Basically, the whole idea around automation and the theme was that I have an app that I use for task management and to-dos, but I also have an app that I use for like Pomodoro timing. So I time my work sessions and then I time my breaks just to make sure that I kind of have a healthy balance of both. And it really helps with my homework and just any work I do in general. So the problem we wanted to solve is what if both of those things could be in the same place at once? And then on top of that, how could we add some cool features to both of them? So I was primarily in charge of the whole UI and all the component interactions. So I'm just going to show off a few of those. So you can create a task here, like take out the trash. Let's just make a bunch of dummy tasks. You can edit any of the task names. You can complete a task or delete a task. You can start your timer. And then you can increment and decrement your timer. And then some other things you can do are with Tailwind responsive classes, I was actually able to pop in some cool stuff. So one of the things you can do is minimize the screen and it's responsive. Say you just want to see your timer. If you get the window small enough, it'll just display the timer. And that's all done with CSS. And then we have a settings modal where you can change your username, view your summary, which unfortunately Asa and Miko didn't get to, but that's all right because you can still view your summary data in a JSON file with this export. Same here to view all of your sessions. But one of the really cool things you can do is change the step for the duration for the incrementing and decrementing. So say for some reason, I'm not happy with the 5-10 minute increment or decrement. I can change it to something really weird if I want like 16, right? And then I can decrement by 16 every single time. And that's kind of cool. And then when you get to the end of a cycle, it plays like a little ding noise and everything to notify you that you're at the end of a cycle. And also we have like maximize, minimize. We have some other like cool convenience features and we even made a little icon. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show off. Thanks to everybody that was involved like setting up this whole hackathon. This is definitely like some of the most fun I've had programming in a long time. So thanks everybody.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That was great. Liza, who's up next?
Zachary is up next to present, and after him should be Manny. Manny Espinosa.
Oops, sorry, that's my dog. Hey,
No
everyone.
worries.
We'll get my
Yeah, I'm good though.